Welcome back, everybody, to session 5, which the title is Empowering Educators Through Purposeful Career and Community Professional Development with Kevin Fleming and Keith Johnson. Kevin is the CEO and founder of Catapult, a PD platform that empowers educators to lead change along with making education relevant and meaningful for students. He is also known as the voice and producer behind many viral animation videos related to career readiness, one of them being Success in the New Economy. That always makes me laugh because it goes back to our conversation that I didn't know that was you. But yeah, awesome. And Keith Johnson is the principal at Nakusa High School and is one of the most progressive and out-of-the-box thought leaders in this space. His innovative thinking is leading some great systems change in his district and community. It's a pleasure to have both of you guys with us today. Thank you for joining our conference and being a part of this. How's it going?
Awesome. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
And hello to everybody who's joining in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting us, Scott.
Yeah, you betcha. I want to share just a little backstory, kind of how we evolved with this. It goes back to actually reaching out to Kevin and trying to learn more about Catapult, and then recognizing his voice was part of all those animation career readiness videos. And also do work with Nakusa School District and Keith, and found a very natural fit for Catapult as we went along with this kind of transformation that Keith is a part of at Nakusa. And we've been together, what, 2 years now, Keith, going on 2?
Yeah, pretty close to 2. It's got to
Yeah.
be getting close.
Yeah. I like to say Keith and I must be related somehow. He's my younger brother, as we definitely share a brain. But yeah, then we've created this pilot utilizing Catapult, and we've got some people at Nakusa that's a part of it. So we're going to learn about that, talk a little bit about how that's going, some of the real benefits, but also some ideas on how could you even make it better. But so we'll turn it over to Kevin. What we want to do first, obviously, here is learn a little bit more about Catapult and the great platform product that it is.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I'll take a few minutes and give an overview of it, and then as mentioned, we can discuss about what we're doing and what we've learned to date. Quick origin story. So as a longtime CT administrator and teacher, I found myself as a dean of a community college and later as a vice president. And I consider myself an advocate for CTE, somewhat articulate. I tried to get people to understand the why through the head and the heart. But I found myself, like, to be totally candid, Scott, like I found myself one day like advancing for student-centered career readiness and work-based learning. And the response I got from my peers was, yeah, Kevin, we've heard that from you before.
Mm.
And I realized that it was kind of like, remember the Charlie Brown teacher? There was like, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
I think after being at my district for a decade plus, it got to the point where, even if you have a strong message, sometimes you're not the right medium. And there's an old proverb that says you're never a prophet in your own land. I know we've spoken about that before, Keith and Scott. I know we could talk about that, but I realized, okay, I needed to do something different. So I started bringing in speakers. I brought in Rachel Mann and Mark Perna and Vince Kohler and all these other people to come in. I created my own like speaker series because I realized other people, my colleagues, needed to hear the message from others. It couldn't just come from one source. It couldn't be the Kevin Fleming show. And so I did this, this whole series on career connected learning, student-centered purposefulness, and it worked. I had an English teacher who actually said, Kevin, like she heard when another guy, Vince, now with Catapult, speak about apprenticeships and work-based learning. She came up to me after, she says, Kevin, is this what you've been saying for a while? And I'm like, yeah, Peggy, like this is the same drum I've been beating. But she's like, oh, now I get it. Like she had to hear it from somebody else. So I realized I was onto something in getting a speaker series that was some of the best orators in the country, but it was expensive. Like it was bloody expensive to do that. And so the origin of Catapult was really, okay, how could we get a series, a panel, a plethora of the best orators in the nation that really speak to future readiness, life readiness, world readiness, career connected learning, hands-on learning, personalized learning, disrupting the status quo, but doing so in a way that is consistent over time, affordable, and doesn't get people defensive, but really helps to broaden understanding of the field. So that's kind of the origin story. That's kind of how Catapult started. So here I'll share a couple uh, of slides here. We'll go through, and this is available, right, Scott? Like the deck is available to people as well.
Yep.
So I'll break an educator's rule. I'll read this slide because I think it's a problem statement, right? Here's the problem that we're trying to solve. So currently, we invest a lot of money sending the same people to conferences. It's expensive. I went to a conference last fall out of state. It was over $3,000. By the time I added the airfare, the Uber, the registration, hotel, food, it was like $3,000. It's expensive. There's limited transfer of learning. If you send 3 people to a conference, typically nothing happens at scale when they come back. I even tried, footnote, before I keep reading, I even have tried many times as an administrator to send people to a conference, then have them report back, have them share what they learned. And as well-intentioned as those efforts are, they never worked. Like, you can never really transfer the learning to other people that weren't there, that didn't hear the speakers or the conversations in the hallway, right? All right, so I'll continue on. Most staff, especially our classified staff, our part-time teachers, our part-time faculty, they rarely get to go to conferences. It's a very small number of folks that get to experience that. Everyone's busy and it's hard to get people engaged. So then sometimes we think, I know, I'll bring a speaker to campus, right? Which, as a speaker, I'll tell you, of course, that can work, but it's expensive. It's also a one and done event. Someone comes from one person's perspective. Still not everybody comes. Oftentimes there's no actionable follow through. It's a one-day thing. And I've done that for years. I'd fly somewhere, speak, support a district with a fall kickoff or an in-service, and then I get on a plane and go. Like, there may not be that ongoing connection, and the message may not always be relevant to people in the room because, again, it's one person's perspective. So the last statement here says most of our trainings are program based. It focus on on just the clicks and picks. It's not focused on enhancing educational relevance, nor is it designed for system change and cultural advancement. So that's kind of the problem statement of what we're aiming to solve, to really be able to provide a solution at scale that solves all these issues, that really focuses on that cultural advancement and system change. So a while back, I did some research. I always give credit where credit's due. I was on a national committee, a think tank with ACTE, and they had us looking at professional development, and we did a deep dive in all the other effective PD that's out there. And we looked at what does effective PD look like. We started this in 2019, by the way, just before the pandemic. And here's the secret sauce. Like, here's the recipe. Here's the 12 things. I won't read them, and again, this deck is available and this is recorded. But if we're going to have effective PD, we need all 12 of these things. Now, locally, if I was trying hard, I might hit 3 or 4 of these things. If my team was really crushing it, I might offer a professional development solution that has 6, 7, 8, 9 of these things, but never all 12. So we took these 12, and this is the bedrock for creating Catapult. It was created for us, by us. It wasn't by someone else at an IT guy or a business, think tank. It's from educators, and it's built for us to advance our work. I'll highlight a few of these, by the way. Number 3 has to be presented in diverse ways from diverse voices. That speaks to that, never being a prophet in your own land. And number 5, it's got to take place over time. Man, we've all we've all been to that 1-day training or 3-day conference, and then, like, maybe I'll share too much by saying this, but I would take notes, all these things I wanted to do from a conference, and then it'd go in a pile when I get back to the office because I've got emails and meetings that flood my calendar. And when I left being a VP at my college, I found a bunch of those notes I hadn't touched for years. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, but like, I had all these great intentions of doing stuff and never got to it. So it's really has to have in number 9, that applicability with local follow-up, local accountability. It's got to be a cohort-based over time. So this is a secret sauce. I can spend a lot more time going through this if people have questions or if you want to revisit this, Scott. But I'll drive forward. So we learned that if we really want to transform education, it lies not just in programs or policy, which are important, but it's got to change the heart and minds, really, of educators. It's got to pierce both the mindsets and the metrics of our folks and of the cultures of our schools. So our mission is to change mindsets and metrics within K through 16 education. And it's been exciting to work with that whole spectrum, elementary, middle, high school, all the way up to post-secondary. And it's really about equipping and empowering educators to lead change. So our vision is to make education relevant. Just a couple of weeks ago, got the official trademark for that. Yay! So it's I'm surprised it was available. But really, we're about educational relevancy, so that all students graduate, whether you call it future ready or world ready, with a competitive advantage. And so that's what our platform's about. I can get into, or I'll skip some of this. Here's what it actually is. Here's what Catapult provides. So first of all, it's democratizing access of PD. So instead of sending, like I said, a few people to a conference, we bring the best of the conference to everyone in a building. It can be for every staff, every teacher, every administrator, even board members, full-time and part-time. The idea is to everyone's invited to the party. And we've got a lot of testimonials I'll show in a minute of someone that, never would be able to be sent to a conference from the facilities maintenance team, but had great outcomes. We provide multiple diverse thought leaders. I'll discuss who some of them are. Relevant career connected topics, really in line with what CISA 2 is driving and your work at NACUSA. Expert facilitators and success coaching. So here's also what's different. It is that local accountability, the ability to ask questions in live Q&A sessions with the speakers to get that local coaching to say, hey, here's a problem I have. Because a rural school in Wisconsin is different than an urban college in California. So here's what this looks like, right? And so you can dive in to pick their brains and really see, here's where we're at. What's the right next step for us? And then we have a virtual community that's year-round at on demand that people can tap into. We believe iron sharpens iron, and we want great people to find other great people and help each other out because there's no competition from, maybe someone in Tennessee or Virginia has a great lesson plan or figured out a great approach to something. We want to share it with educators in Wisconsin and vice versa. So the result here on the bottom, it's shared experience, broader buy-in, galvanized support, a focused plan locally, which remain next steps, all with simple execution at an affordable ROI. So that's what it looks like. And here's how we do it. So we've got 40 awesome educators. I have learned, real quick, like kind of timestamp here, Keith, like my first teaching assignment was 1999. So it is my 26th year in this game. And I started this 5 years ago with Catapult, and I've learned from every single one of these people. So I say that to say, like, these are all folks that even if you've been in this field 20 years or more, they each have a nugget, a lesson, a stat, an approach that is absolutely game-changing and revolutionary. We bundle all of our individual masterclass speakers into programs. So you go through like one bundled program a semester is typically how it's organized. So every 2 to 3 weeks, you focus on a different speaker in their master class, and it's a flipped classroom is really the best explanation for it. Pre-recorded master classes, you can watch them individually or with teams, and then a live Q&A session about every 3 weeks or so. So you really get a nice cadence of ongoing inspiration. I think of it like an IV drip over time instead of a bucket of water all at once. And so a lot of buildings will do, like work-based learning in the fall and employer partnerships in the spring or something like that. And they'll go through. We're about to launch, these are our 5 existing programs. We're about to launch our 6th one actually this summer called Education Transformation. We just started to drop some of our trailers and promos about that next masterclass. We have our own platform we deliver it through. We started using like LMS systems and other online conference delivery platforms. Didn't quite work for what we were doing. So we invested 1.5 years of time and money to build our own platform. So it's just for us to be able to connect and to get, in addition to the master classes, playbook material. So we've worked with every speaker to come up with some reflection questions and practice activities. So you can take the message, their keynote speech, their evergreen masterclass, and now apply it. It's that next step. Now what? So what? What do I do on Monday morning type of an application guidance? So we have that's coupled with every masterclass, with every speaker. So we have that playbook that people can discuss and follow. And there's a slide for that. Lastly, want to mention it's also good for continuing education units and college credit. Not college credit for students. This is for us as employees. So we partner with University of Central Missouri. Each one of our bundled programs is also worth 2 college credits, undergraduate or graduate. There's a small fee there per credit hour between the individual and the university. We have nothing to do with that. That's just to get the transcripted credit. But that's helpful for those that are looking to advance, get a master's, get a credential, continue their education, or climb up the salary schedule. So we've organized that and have that ready for everybody as well. I want to pause for a minute, but I anticipated some questions people may have about who else has done it. What are the outcomes and the impacts? How much time does it take? What does it cost? So we can get into that in a minute, but I want to stop because I know that in the pre-conversation, we talked a little bit about kind of your reaction, Scott working with some of our speakers, and you mentioned like JP in particular, and then would love, Keith, for you to share a little bit about NACUSA's experience so far. And then if we have time, I can dive into some of those other pieces that I anticipated people may ask.
Yeah, you want to grab it? Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to. I stumbled across something too that you haven't talked about it, but they're different lessons. I got it over here on my other screen.
Oh yeah.
Preparing for life after high school, preparing for life. Yeah, different skill lessons that you have. What are those? Are those a part of the program itself too?
Yeah, let me, you know what I could do? Let me switch screens. Let me show you what it looks like. That might actually
Yeah.
help. So here's our platform. Actually, Keith, I signed in as you, by the way. So
Oh,
so here's what the platform looks like when Keith signs in. In this case, we're doing a pilot program here, so it's labeled as such for Nakusa. When you click in on this, you'll see the different lessons, the different masterclass. If I go into one, like here's a lesson, whole masterclass from Brandon Bastide. It gives a summary of who it is, gives it or what it is, gives a bio and who Brandon is, and it's broken down into lessons. So people can watch, you can binge watch the whole thing, or you can do it in sections as you go along. And so every master class is broken up as such. Down here below, there's also then that asynchronous discussion. So people can add comments, share links, ask questions, connect with other educators. If you really like what someone said, you can click on them. You can see some of their badges. You can even message them if you want to send them a private message. Maybe they said something and you want to really connect with them. If we have any live events coming up, like in this pilot series with Nakusa, we have one more of the live events coming up on May 8th with Christy Valesky on Work-Based Learning. And then there's the asynchronous community that people can go in and click on, and then you can ask questions and people can respond to it. And again, a way to asynchronously get good communication with folks. And then we have, on the dashboard, we have like all the other live events. There's an orientation and everything. But yeah, every master class. Oh, I should show you because you asked about it, Scott. Every master class, when you click into it, it has like, here's JP Michelle, who I know had a great session. We also, here's like the playbook here in red is that playbook button. So when you click on that, it opens up the fillable PDF. And in that has all of the, here's what it looks like. It has all of the reflection questions, practice activities. Again, we work with every speaker and really say, okay, so if someone hears your master class, they talk to you, then what? Like, let's stop just talking about it. Like, what do we do without money, without maybe a change, but like Monday morning, what are some things you can do in the classroom with our building? How do we implement this stuff? So every playbook is different that we worked with the speaker. And then we always give information on how to go deeper with them. If you really like one of the presenters, you want to go deeper with them, go, learn about them, follow them. We always give those links. And I know that happened with you with JP, right? I think you mentioned that to me, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, when we, because JP was a part of the Nakusa group, and I had always, well, I've seen him on a couple other panel discussions, and as a part of Spark Path and the challenge cards, I was very curious. So yeah, and then I reached out to him, had some nice conversation. He's been sending me challenge cards left and right. I've been using them in schools. But yeah, the ability to see him on Catapult and then be able to network with him. And then now we're utilizing the challenge cards at Nakusa. So this wasn't just the PD part of JP. He was willing to partner with us, to network with us. He even live zoomed in with a few of the teachers, a couple of the teachers that are going to be utilizing the challenge cards. So it was just a snowball effect in regards to having that opportunity to work and network with them. It was good.
And I love that because these are good people. These are our people. They're generous. They want to be helpful. They've done great work, but they're willing to be contacted and go deeper. Almost every single, well, not almost every single Catapult speaker says, "Hey, connect with me on
Right.
LinkedIn or social, and like let's go deeper." And they want to be helpful. And what I really love and what gives me joy is like you've been doing this work for a long time and you are ahead of the pack. You didn't know of JP, so to be able to introduce these other thought leaders and practitioners and give us all, expand all of our network, like that brings me joy to be able to say, hey, I found these folks. And by the way, a lot of the speakers come from referrals from other districts or other speakers,
Mhm.
and then we vet them heavily. We vetted over 150 folks and to get the 40 that are really dynamic and persuasive and data driven and mission guided, and folks like JP. And then we find them, and then it's great to share them so that, yeah, you can get to know them and their work and then use it and apply it locally. That's what it's all about.
And JP is part of this conference this afternoon. So
That's right. Yeah.
yeah,
So it was,
yeah,
see what, and once we get good people,
yeah.
we don't know how to say no. So then we can invite
That's a
them to
good
do more
thing.
stuff. And that's what we see time and time again. And that's what's been awesome about providing this with Nakusa is it's not just about that one engagement to get people to think differently about a certain content area, about career readiness or work-based learning, but then it has all these other ripple effects, all these other ways that it starts to bleed into conversations and implementations later. Keith, before I carry on with my thoughts, reactions, kind of what you've been thinking and how it's been going on in Nakusa
Yeah,
so far.
it's a much different approach to professional development as you talked about at the beginning. And and that does take a little bit of time and a little bit of an on-ramp to getting used to for for us at Nakusa. It certainly has been. But I do think the experience with JP was phenomenal and how that all has worked out and continues to carry forward. And I think too the being over time is really a key part, because if you go to a conference 2 days after the conference is done, there's always that half-life. And what's been exciting with the masterclass, it has been having the renewal, and you continue to renew and get a little bit more out of it. You go a couple of weeks or whatever it might be between speakers, and then you're getting ready for the next one, and you have that renewal and you get a new half-life, if you will. And so I think that's been a good part, has been the extended amount of time. We're going into 2.5 months now of the time that we've been working with the Catapult Masterclass. And certainly the experience with JP and the challenge cards and that has been probably the piece that is taken off the most for us in terms of our thinking at the moment. But I don't think it'll be the only part. So that would be my thoughts are how valuable it is having the experience over time and with a cohort group to be able to talk about it. You don't have the hotel conversations, down in the lobby before you go out to dinner, but you have instead conversations that are happening in the hallway or happening in classrooms as time goes on over weeks and even months.
Yeah, I love that. And I've heard from some of your staff and others how it starts to bleed into those other conversations at the building, in the district. And I've been in meetings where they say, hey, that speaker, mentioned XYZ, like let's adopt that here. And it becomes, because a lot of people have access to it, it becomes part of then the shared nomenclature and the shared, people can all draw on it instead of just a few people that were at a conference and there's no one else there to reference. Now everybody has seen that. So it's easy to be applied.
Well, the other part too is, oh, I missed that. And if you miss it at a presentation, you missed it. If you missed it on a video, you're able to go back and watch with that idea in mind of this is what I'm looking for. So,
and I believe, and the research has shown that hybrid professional development is our future. So whether people use Catapult or you do it homegrown, part of it needs to be in person. You have to have that in-person breaking of bread, conversing with people. We're human beings. We need that in-person, dynamic community element. But we can never get everybody in the same room at the same time for long durations. So we've got to, in a post-pandemic world, meet people where they're at, have things be like this. This is a great example today through CISA 2. It's virtual, it's synchronous, but it's also recorded. So people can get it in multiple modalities. And I think that any PD we do has to be accessible like that. It's got to be either on demand, virtual, and in person, and it's got to be blended. There has to be components with that. So I'm a big advocate of leveraging something like Catapult to have that, the best speakers in the country at pennies on the dollar, but then also doing it in person, having a brown bag lunch, having bagels and coffee, or there's a school in Illinois that got popcorn. They did popcorn and soda every other Thursday and watched master classes together and made it a human experience, and we're able to leverage it. So yeah, I think that hybrid approach is what's key, however it gets implemented.
One of the things I've noticed with it is to me, it's like an intentional networking opportunity. I think the best work that's happening in this area, in regards to career readiness and exploration, is that people are tapping into more people. And that's one of the things I've done over the last couple of years, is to really try to network, reach out, constantly connect. That's how we met, Kevin. I mean, I go back and chuckle with me and you and Sylvester, and I asked you guys to come out for our conference,
Well,
face to face, right?
And this is how we meet people. And
Yeah, right.
then, then you learn it's through the, what is it, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or something, right? We just make the world smaller by connecting each other to common folks.
Right. And not a lot of, well, educators will do it when they find their niche and they find where they want to lean into. This creates that intentionality behind it. It gives structure, gives some expectations, but to me, I see it as like a backed off type of an approach, allowing for educators to congregate in the hall and have conversation around it. Plus, it's all around the topic area that I represent, that we represent in the field, and what, you don't find a lot of that.
Yeah.
You've got to go look for it. And right now, that's where education is heading, is that career community connected type approach. So
We are, to my knowledge, we are the only, Catapult is the only professional development approach or platform that is exclusively on that topic, Scott.
yeah,
We are exclusively about career connected learning and about helping students be future and world ready. We don't have modules on increasing reading scores. I mean, there's other people that do that.
yeah,
And that's because this is my lane. I'm a CTE guy. Like, this is my space. So everyone that is on our platform, like every Catapult Masterclass speaker, is helping to change mindsets and metrics around future readiness and career connected learning. And we're the only one out there that's focused just on that. And I've been, you know, there's always those shiny objects. I've had people say, "Oh, Kevin, you should do a masterclass on X, Y, and Z." And it's like, we've been very, very, we stick to our knitting. We stayed in our lane, and that's like in Southern California, we have In-N-Out Burger is always my example I use. Like, they do very few things very well. Burgers, fries, shakes. That's it. You're not going to find other things there. And for Catapult, we do career connected learning, PD at scale, world readiness. That's it. Like, that's our lane. And I think we're the only ones really that are emphasizing that.
yeah.
Would it be
I,
helpful? Should I dive into the rest of the questions that we pre-talked about? You want me to go through anticipating other questions people may have?
you certainly can, but I had a question for Keith,
Please.
that could share out too, because I know he and I have talked a lot about this. And I think those listening might take advantage of this. The entry point, right? Keith, you and I have talked a lot about, where's the entry point for Catapult? Um,
Yeah.
because one piece we don't want to have, we both think this way. We don't want to walk in August in your in-service days and say, all right, everybody, this is what we're going to do. So he and I have talked a lot about where's the entry point? When are people ready for it? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, probably not in August is
Yeah.
likely the least likely place, I would say. I think it really depends. It's kind of a district by district as you're feeling out where, or school by school, depending on where an institution is at with this work, and how you're progressing and what's happening, where you're at with readiness for the work around readiness. I mean, it really varies. It's hard to say exactly. I think that our work with you, Scott, has been pivotal for helping us to, to work up the ground, if you will, for this, and getting the most out of Catapult. And I think, that being said, if we were to go back now with what we've learned, if we were to go back to February, January, we'd be able to get that much more out of it and be able to hit the ground running in a different way than what we did. I think that we kind of stumbled a little bit out of the gate, but I think that to go back now, there are some things that I would certainly do differently, like getting things really well set up in advance, like explaining what exactly is to be expected, what is a masterclass, how does that concept work, setting up, just a few weeks ago, we did the setting up, the breaking everybody into groups and having them really focus in on one of the speakers they kind of became the expert on that particular expert, if you will. But it's hard to say. You can't really exactly pinpoint this is the entry point for an institution, because each one is in a different spot. Now, that being said, I don't think you need to have a huge group of people ready for this work. In fact, sometimes it might be better to have a smaller group that is ready, that you move forward with the cohort, that then it just sort of bleeds into other parts of the building and the district. And we're certainly seeing that right now. It's been so we are a traditional high school, and then we have an alternative high school that's within our high school. And the individuals working, the teachers working in our alternative high school are the ones that we've been working most closely with on this work, and certainly on the Catapult work, and then in our CTE department. But that being said, this work is also starting to move into our middle school and starting to get some traction and attention from individuals at the middle school. And so I think that's that bleeding element that is exciting to watch, is how it just starts to expand. JP and the challenge cards, we ordered some challenge cards and just kind of moving those around throughout the building and helping people to just see it. You know, some people who have never, quite honestly, they've long forgotten about the call for Catapult that went out, that I put out in December and January, of anyone that's interested, let me know. They've forgotten about that, but they're now starting to use the challenge cards and starting to see how they can help students to become more engaged with their learning. And so entry point is hard to say, but don't look for the moment when it's, don't look for the sun to, the sky to part and the sun to start shining and everything to be perfect. I think you just kind of jump in where you are.
Yeah, there's part of the work that we're doing with your middle school. I think that there's, when we develop a little bit of proof of concept around career connected, community connected learning within the classrooms, and this has been, right, even a slow drip with that group as we've worked with them for now, this full year here, but also the ability for them to see the need for more information. Like, I want more information around this. Well, now's the time to then kickstart Catapult. And that's what we're kind of seeing. That proof of concept has to go parallel with the providing of this professional development. And all too often, what I've seen in education, going through it for 35 years, is that we see that professional development up front to give us the what on what it is we're going to go do. And in a lot of cases, we even tell our staff or teachers, this is how you're going to go do it. And what we've been attempting to do in Nakusa, which I think is really starting to blossom, is, what is this? What can it be? And what are the supports that we need? And that's where Catapult, I think, is starting to blend in. A great example with JP and the challenge cards.
And I love, in terms of entry point, I would add, what I've seen with a lot of districts, including Nakusa, is you start with the coalition of the willing.
Yeah.
You start with the few folks that are willing, and the reality about the human condition is people want to be part of something successful. And so once you get that coalition of the willing, it could be 5 people, 10 people. Once they start going, then Keith, you're right. People forget about the call and the invitation 6 months ago. But when you send that out every 2-3 months, you say, hey, by the way, there's 8 of us doing this thing, and you're all still invited. You can hop in, open entry, open exit, come in anytime. People want to be part of something that's successful. Years ago, I heard this phrase, and it's so true in education. Everyone wants to be first, but nobody wants to be first. Like, we want to say, we're progressive, we're going to do something first. But then every time it's like, well, who else is doing it? Like, who else is already, the proven case study, right? And so I think you just start with whenever you can, with whoever you can. And I've seen it countless, like with Nakusa, initial stumbling blocks, because it's different. People don't understand. They think this is a webinar series or a conference, and they don't realize it's this cadence of learning and discussing, learning and discussing, learning and discussing. And every month there's a different kind of cycle. And it takes, honestly, a couple months for people to really get into it. And then it starts to catch on. So I see schools, the first 2-3 months, a little rocky, then it grows. The second term, it's like a hockey stick in terms of engagement. The third semester, people do Catapult and beyond. Then it becomes just something that it becomes part of their DNA, of just how they learn and how they convene and how they get the most out of these expert speakers they never would have otherwise heard in their building. But it takes, like anything new, there is an onboarding ramp up period. It takes a little time. I don't want anyone to think, oh, I do this and in 3 months it's done. No, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, it takes time.
We do have a question that diverts us a little bit towards the challenge cards from Chris Trottier from Elkhorn. We and Keith, add to this on how you guys are using them, but basically the challenge cards are related to different challenges, different real world challenges that question students through some great questioning techniques on what problems, what challenges would they like to resolve or be involved in or change as they go through this not only career but community connected process, which allows our students to understand more about themselves, and it helps us then align to a career pathway or a community pathway, or really just to that work of solving those types of problems. But Keith, can you speak a little bit maybe
Yeah.
how they're using them?
Yeah, and I think and you said JP is presenting later today,
Yeah,
so
he'll
that would
talk
be
about it.
a great session to attend because and his take on it is to move away from the idea of matching a student with a job title and
Yeah,
instead start looking at what are the challenges that students want to work on solving. So, a student might say, well, I want to be an athletic trainer, or I want to be a physician, is kind of a classic example. But if you have them go through with a challenge mindset, and the challenge cards just simply help to focus that, but it might be promoting healthy living or working to help people improve their mental health. Those are challenges that widen out a student's thinking and help to really broaden away from just this one job title to, I really want to work on promoting healthy living. Within that, there are plethora of different career possibilities and options. And so that's what the challenge cards are, is they're just cards that help you and help the student to think of different challenges. By no means are they all encompassing. You can come up with your own challenges left and right. But yeah, I would say if you want to find out more about that, certainly his session would be the one to attend, and he can talk about that a ton more and a lot better than what I can.
or me. Yeah, the other part I think, which is the marriage to Catapult, is that JP has then the playbook that's a part of Catapult.
Mm-hmm.
And that, this is a great example. I've gotten a lot of requests, hey, can we get some challenge cards, right? So that's a product that can promote doing some work with students, right? But that's that product first versus process first, I often talk about. And listening to JP and Catapult, going through his playbook is going to start to resonate, which can help you go through a process where you're going to be able to utilize those challenge cards numerous ways. So that's what I really liked about the challenge cards, getting to know JP, and then also the playbook that he offered and being able to work through that. It really sparked a lot of different ideas for myself.
Well, the other neat part with Catapult, though, too, is if an individual, a teacher in the building is really interested in it after seeing the
Yeah,
challenge cards, you're able to say, go watch the videos that JP has on Catapult, or hey, and the great part about when working with Kevin has been we've been able to, more Ren, I guess, than Kevin, but be able to email and say, we need to add so and so on, and then that person is able to jump in and they immediately have an interest. In this case, it was JP. They immediately have an interest in one of the classes. So they go to that, they watch through that, and then they start to wonder, well, what about these other ones? What's this Brandon Bastide talking about, or Christy Valesky, or these individuals that they start to see on the master class. And then that starts to, it's that bleeding again. That starts to drive more and more interest.
What I've seen is it's like if you go to Costco or Sam's Club, you get like a sample. And once you didn't go there wanting to buy lasagna, but you took a bite of it and you're like, oh, that's pretty good lasagna. I'm going to buy it.
right.
You put it in their cart. You had to put
Yep.
stuff you didn't want to purchase, right? Once anyone in the building gets hooked by watching one segment of it, they see that either the product or the implementation first that drives them to the platform, or if they're brought in a room all together with popcorn and coffee and they watch a masterclass together, once they get that first taste and they say, oh, this is actually helpful. Like this is making me think about this is a good thing. Then we see on the back end, we see the usage exponentially increase, because then they realize that this is not just another boring webinar or something. Like, no, these are all like international keynote speakers that are brilliant orators. They're great storytellers. They really help people think different, and then people want more of that. I think we're all tired of mediocre or less than mediocre, like bad PD. Like we want like great PD. And so every one of these speakers, they provide that, whether it's Brandon Bastide, Heather McGowan, but like JP level, like just really great professional development and mind shifting.
Yeah, and it can be immersed and integrated, within your staff. And I think that's huge. Makes it.
At a flexible cadence that works for you. I mean, that's the other way we did this. It's meant to spend as much or as little time on an area as you want. Like in Nakusa's case, they get, 5 different speakers. They really latch onto one, to JP, and that's great. I see every school kind of latches onto one or two of the thought leaders in that program that really resonates with where they're at. But what's fascinating is the same semester, Keith, I have other schools in the same series as you, they're latching onto somebody else because where
Sure.
they are,
Yep.
someone else's message really resonates where they are.
Yeah.
So we're very strategic and intentional about who we bundle together so that there's always one or two that is right for you. Is every single speaker going to resonate with you? No, because everyone's in a different spot. But I guarantee in every program, there'll be one that resonates with what your next steps can be. With a few minutes that came back, we anticipated there'd be a couple of questions that people would ask. And then if you have other questions, please drop them into the chat. We still have some more time here. I'm gonna blow through this because people always ask, well, what are the outcomes and the impacts? And they ask, how much time does it take? So I want to at least cover those real quick. Who else has done this first? We have over 100 institutions, including Nakusa, annually that go through Catapult, really opening up a national network of game changers and education disruptors. So it's really part of a larger, well, I don't want to be overly dramatic and call it a larger movement, but it is. It's a larger movement to do this at scale. Outcomes. We were lucky enough to partner with the National Association for Career and Technical Education this last year. We did pre and post tests of learning gains of our professional development. Now, this in and of itself was pretty miraculous because we rarely in our field do pre and post tests of professional development. We normally just send people to a session and then their attendance is an outcome. Well, here we had learning gains. I put a red arrow here next to the first one, 56% documented learning gains around their knowledge of work-based learning, specifically about understanding the intended purposes of why do work-based learning. And what's cool about this series of outcomes is this was not just for folks that are already in the space. This is for general education teachers, AP teachers, administrators, secretaries, folks that have never really heard of this before. Huge learning gains. And when we did this, every single measure, we were surprised, but it was awesome to see double-digit learning gains on every single one. It blew the external evaluators out of the water. They didn't anticipate that. Here's another one we asked about, asked hundreds of participants that went through the series on their knowledge base of career readiness. Again, on the right-hand side, you'll see every single metric experience a double-digit learning gains pre versus post test. I have a red arrow there next to one about how do you design effective experiential learning experiences. And when people self-assess their knowledge of it, 67% learning gains of that across a variety of disciplines and programs. I think I only included 3. I have a bunch more, but I think the last one I included in this deck was about someone's confidence, their individual confidence in providing work-based learning programming. And we had a 54% increase here in red of those that feel confident in having a conversation about the benefits of work-based learning. That alone, if people don't feel confident about discussing it, you're not going to get implementation of the tactics, right? So again, double-digit learning gains in everything, which is really cool to see. A bunch of different qualitative feedback. We get, feedback every day, literally every day. We get emails of people that are completing a master class and they give us feedback. I want to read this last one that we got 3 months ago. It says, while this master class was extremely helpful and enlightening, I had to do some reflection on my part. I have 2 children at home who I characterized as a lazy generation until now. I needed a different perspective and positive outlook, and now I have a solution and a different way forward with them. This is changing conversations both in my classroom and my dining room. Thanks. And that's what's been awesome about this is because we get staff and maintenance folks that otherwise wouldn't be in a career readiness or career connected learning training, and it's impacting their conversations in their house. I got another one I didn't put on the slide today, Scott, but it was from a facilities worker I referenced earlier. He was from El Camino College in California. He was a painter in the maintenance department, and he wrote, I never would have been invited to something like this on career readiness. He goes, this has changed the conversation with my 5 kids. And so then you start getting like multi-generational impacts of this, which has been awesome. Here's one from a CT employment specialist who said Catapult helped them. It was an absolute game changer. I love in the middle of this quote, she says, it wasn't until I attended a workshop that everything changed. And she said, thanks to Catapult and the insights gained from the master classes, I've witnessed a significant shift in engagement levels. So if you're a building and you want more internships, you want more employer engagement, you want more project-based learning or credentialing or embedded certifications, this may be a solution for you. On our website, I won't go deep into it, but we have our 6 main outcomes of how we measure success. And so what you can anticipate, I highlighted 2 here I wanted to mention on this call. This is aggregate over every educator and staff that's been through any Catapult program. 97% felt more prepared and focused on implementing targeted institutional change, which is awesome. And in the bottom left, 9 out of 10, I didn't even round up. It's not even 91, it's 90.8, but it's 9 out of 10 staff and educators say that Catapult helped to transform passive support into active commitment at their institution, resulting in broader understanding and buy-in. And that's really what we're all about and what we're trying to achieve. Here's what it looks like, by the way. We talked about that IV drip of that constant, like Keith talked about that half-life. I like how you said that. How you keep getting that dose of motivation all throughout the year. Here's our average schedule. If you as an individual want a membership or just your team, here's our live Q&A schedule. We do one program at a time. We kind of go through this regular schedule. Right now, we are taking July and December off for, I think, darn good reason. People need a summer break, and surprisingly, Keith, no one wants to talk about work-based learning on December 19th. Go figure. So we take that off too. But the idea is it's just one a month. And in terms of time, it takes 1 to 2 hours every month. That's it. People are busy. They don't have capacity to do a whole lot. So in talking with a lot of folks, what a lot of staff and educators are willing to do is, yeah, I can do 2 hours a month to invest, 2 hours a month to grow, 2 hours a month to change how we serve students. And again, oftentimes it's incorporated in a meeting or in a department or in a monthly PD or individually. So they can kind of go through that. That's our regular schedule. Lastly, I want to talk about the time. If you did a whole program, it's about 19 and a half hours over a whole semester. And that's if you do everything. That's if you have a really great onboarding kind of expectation meeting so people understand the rhythm. That's if they watch the asynchronous master classes and attend every live session and do time in that playbook, really learning the application, and then do a debrief, a post kind of like now what, tactical planning. If they did everything soup to nut, it's only 19 hours over the whole semester. So the idea here is truly being, more of an impact and more penetration without leaving, like it says here, without leaving your classrooms, your departments, or your families, but bringing it to the best of every building. Lastly, about cost, I'll put a link here in the chat for everyone about how much it actually costs. We're super transparent about it. It's $2,000 per person a year, or down to, it can be as low as $13 a person if you do a whole building or district. All the numbers are on the website. As an educator, I hated and still hate going to a conference and vendors hide their pricing, or you have to go through multiple demos or calls to get it. I remember one time, Scott, I went to a conference. I was working on my Perkins plan. I needed numbers months in advance, and they wouldn't give me the numbers. And I couldn't get a quote from them without jumping through all these hoops of fire. So I ended up looking at them on a phone call. I said, look, if you don't give me a price, I cannot put you in my work plan. I cannot use you next year. Oh. He wouldn't give me a price. I never used them. So I'm jaded from that positively. So now I'm super transparent with the pricing. It's all on the website. If you're watching the recording and you don't have access to the chat, you can just go to catapultmasterclass.com. Click on membership, and all the numbers are there. If you have a small institution, if you have a team, if you have a large district, or just an individual, all the pricing's there.
Yeah. You've been real workable with us in Nakusa as we pull together the pilot, if you would, we've been calling it. So yeah, it's been good, some good stuff.
It's got to make sense. It's got to time, money, and impact. It's got to make sense, and it's been awesome to work. Keith said this before. I want to double down on this, Scott. You have to have the local champion that is going to continue to bring it up and discuss it and apply it. And that's what Scott and CISA 2 is doing for Nakusa, to have that constant presence, that person on the ground that says, hey, have you watched this? Here's how we implement it. Here's where you can use it. Let's go deeper with it. You have questions, ask me, right? So you need that local champion that can help drive it forward. And Scott's doing that for Nakusa. And obviously, Keith, you're there as the administrator on the ground implementing it, but to lean on CISA 2 to be that ally and to really be in the weeds I wish I could clone you, Scott, in every region, in the nation, because that's really the best way to leverage something like Catapult, is to have a human being that is driving it forward with conversations, in-person convenings, and local application, so you get the most out of it. So I just want to acknowledge that, and just,
Nice.
kudos to CISA 2 for making that available to support NACUSA and getting the most out of it.
Yeah, we had a business luncheon last week in Nukusa. And in my head, I was thinking about, I wonder if some of the business partners here would be good to jump on and be a part of, Catapult and because we were having a lot of conversation around what is work-based learning, how do we partner together,
Mhm.
and so yeah, in my head, I was thinking, "Nah, that could be the next step even."
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
we have had, by the way, a lot of districts that are building want to include some of their main industry partners, like to go through this, and the answers from us is always yes, because then you can get the Chamber of Commerce person or the chair of your advisory board when they're going through this. That's helpful. We've even had instances where it's a district and their local community college, and they're serving the same rural community, and they go through it together as one institution. They're two institutions, but they're serving the same student
Hmm.
community. So we just count them as one group, right? So they go through a whole program together as well. In Tennessee, we had 4 rural schools that all banded together because they only had like 15, 20 people each. So they all came together as
Yeah.
one institution, cost shared. They priced it out. We did 4 different invoices. It was fine. Like, we're willing to work with regions like that too. If you got a couple different rural buildings, you want to do it together as a county or as a community, we can do that too. So we're flexible in how we slice up the pricing and the membership, because we want
Yeah.
it to be helpful for a community, however you define that, not how someone arbitrarily defines it outside of your community. I see there's a question here also, Scott. Someone put in the chat about, we mentioned about the slide deck that I shared, that they would have access to that deck, and she's asking where they can get it. Do you have a place you're storing all the slide decks for today, or do you want me to drop a link in the
You
chat?
can certainly drop it right in here also, but yes, all of the participants that have registered are going to get a virtual tote bag. It's going to be sent out to them. So,
Perfect. For those live on, I just dropped it on the chat. You can open that. Otherwise, check the tote bag for those slides.
yep, perfect. Yeah. If you get any other questions, I'm not seeing questions on my chat for some reason, but if you get others, go ahead and answer it. We can continue with questions here. I got just a couple, I want to take up a couple minutes here of your time, Keith, and Kevin. Um, I gotta ask how did you venture into those videos, those animated videos? Where, right? I mean, how long ago? How many years?
Yeah.
I mean, that's good stuff.
So Scott's going back to, 10 years ago, 9 years
Okay.
ago, I did a video called Success in the New Economy. And
Yeah.
it was
Good
an
one.
animated video and real honestly, I was thinking about this the other day, Scott. Those early animation videos built the foundation for me to eventually do Catapult. Because what I learned was, this is a decade ago, there's only so many rooms I could be in to talk or to present or to persuade, to influence, to encourage others to think about future readiness and CT and career readiness. So I did these animated videos to really be able to hit more people at scale, and to interact with more folks at scale. And here, while I'm talking about it, I can drop, for those that are live, I'll put my website. If you go to kevinjfleming.com, you can go to I have a resource video library you can go to, but I'll drop the chat
It's
here.
good. I've hit it. It's good. You gotta, if you have not been a part of that or have gone to it, you've got to go to this
Thanks, brother.
video library.
It's a,
You got some new ones in there.
Yeah, just last year, I think we've done over, so my team and I have done over 60 animated videos that are all
Wow.
short. They're designed to just kick off conversations. So they self-facilitate. You play a video with your team, your department, your teachers, your parents, with your students. You play a video, and then you say, so what do you think? Like, that's the extent of facilitation or prep you need to do. And they're
Mhm.
designed just to start conversations. And on my video library, they do have, there's videos for students, for educators, for counselors, for parents. I have some for board members. And so they are designed to start these conversations. And yeah, I learned over the years how you can tell a message both with audio and then with visuals. And that's parlayed into how we do our master classes that are all professionally recorded. And by the way, you could go to the YouTube channel for Catapult and watch all of our previews, or on our homepage. We have a number of our trailers, all that video production work that I never had a business plan, Scott, to say, as an educator, I'm going to start a side hustle as like an animated video producer and eventually do professional learning videos for PD. Like, that was never intentional. It just,
Right.
it honestly just organically grew on top of each other. But on the Catapult Masterclass website, you can watch some of the trailers, high production value, designed to be, convincing and engaging and persuasive. But yeah, all that early video work, man, it keeps, and we keep learning, and every one we do gets better. Every animated video or live Catapult, masterclass we do, we keep learning and we keep growing. And the goal is to give the field the best resources possible. I think you and our buildings, our students, they deserve it.
I know every time I drive up to Nakusa and meet with Keith and their team, he's always talking about some podcast that he's been listening to or something. So, Keith, you gotta give us the secret here. What you're making dinner? You got it in your earbuds, or what's going on?
Well, it's actually so I do a lot of what's called rucking. I don't know if you're familiar with rucking. Basically, you put weight in a backpack and you go for a walk. And
Yeah.
what I'll do a lot of is I go out in the early mornings, and I'm talking like 3:30, 4:30 in the morning, completely dark, nothing but a headlamp, and then I'll just throw a podcast on. And so that's actually works perfect for me. I guess if you're a night owl, you could do it late at night, but um, the darkness helps because you're not distracted by watching other things. You just you're making sure you don't trip, and you're listening to a podcast. So
Yeah, you gotta watch
I
out
mean,
for
I've
the
got
bears.
yeah, bears and some dogs. Dogs are probably the
Wild dogs, bears.
more dangerous thing, but
Rucking is a new one I've heard of people listening to our master classes on the elliptical machine, on the commute, walking dogs. Now rucking. I like that. That's
rucking.
good.
Yeah.
Nice.
And what I heard him say, Scott, is the secret to do as much listening and PD as Keith does is you don't sleep. That's what I just heard. He doesn't. He's a vampire, is what I'm getting away from this. Yeah.
Probably right. Yeah.
Scott, thanks for the opportunity just for us to share how we're helping Nakusa and how CISA 2 is leveraging the Catapult platform really to get to more people to understand our mission, our work, and to bring more people on board to make education relevant. So thanks for the chance to kind of talk that through today.
Yeah, you betcha. And thank you to both of you for being a part of our conference. And also, I've really enjoyed working with both of you. Keith and I often joke that we're going to go start our own school. So when we do, we'll definitely invest in Catapult, bring that along for the ride. But yeah, appreciate you guys getting involved. And we'll head out. It's about that time, it looks like. For those that for those that want to reach out, can reach out to Kevin Fleming. He's given you his email address and all that information. Same with Keith Johnson. Keith is a part of the Nakusa School District, so you can find him there. So really appreciate it, you guys.
And we're doing a Q&A session, I think, after this in about 15 minutes. So there's another link if people want to go deeper, ask questions or anything, feel free to join Keith and I after about a 15-minute break.
Yep. Alrighty, thank you to everyone who joined, and we will be shifting into the next sessions. Appreciate it.
Scott.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Keith.
Thanks, Evan.